The story begins at an American football game where a man named Nicky is sitting with his girlfriend, Jess. While the match is going on, Nicky is more interested in watching the crowd than the game. He notices a beautiful girl getting up from her seat and suddenly comes up with a mischievous idea, making a small bet with Jazz about how many people will turn around to look at her. A man named Livian, sitting nearby, also joins the bet, and they jokingly put $10 each and start counting. When the girl leaves the stands, the final count shows that 7 people turn to look at her, and since Jazz guessed the closest number, she wins the bet. Livian pays without hesitation and suggests starting another round, this time betting on which team will commit the next foul. Jazz steps out, saying she doesn't understand the game, but Nicky jumps in and places a big bet. As soon as the whistle blows, the referee signals a foul. It's Livian. He bet on turns out to be correct, and he wins the bet. Nicky put the money into his pocket. Livian became even more excited and suggested a new bet of $5,000, asking whether the player would pass the ball or run with it. Nicky hesitated to risk such a big amount, but eventually agreed. Livian guessed the player would run, while Nicky said he would pass. And as soon as the whistle blew, the player actually ran with the ball, causing Nicky to lose $5,000. Nicky decided to stop, saying losing $5,000 was enough, and asked Jazz to go have coffee with him. But Livian insisted, reminding him that he was sitting in the VIP lounge and surely had enough money, pushing him to play one more round for $10,000. In the next bet, they guessed whether the player would successfully complete the next pass. Nicky predicted the pass would succeed, but the opposing team intercepted it. But Nicky looked angry, and luck was clearly not on his side as he lost the next bet as well, forcing him to pay another $500. Jazz immediately told him to stop, but Nicky's anger and ego took over, and without thinking, he placed another reckless bet of $100,000. Livian mocked him, asking if he even had that much money, and Nicky responded by silently throwing a thick bundle of cash onto the table, which only made Livian more excited. Nicky then bet that the next pass would be intercepted and fail, but this time the pass was successful, causing him to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars and leaving him completely shaken while Jazz watched in shock. The game had now reached an extreme level, and Nicky declared that he still had $1 million left and was willing to bet it all to see who would win, deciding that the outcome would be settled with playing cards. As Livian kept winning, he became almost drunk with joy, seeing Nicky like an ATM machine, and when Livian revealed his card, a 5 of spades, Nicky now had only one chance left. Nicky needed to draw a card higher than 5, and his chances of winning seemed very high. So he confidently picked a card and flipped it over, only to reveal a 3, which shocked everyone. When Nicky started the game, he only planned to bet $4,000, but by now he had lost more than $1 million, and after this humiliating loss, he had nothing left to say. So he quietly held Jazz's hand and tried to leave. However, Livian kept mocking him, saying this is what happens when you play against a master, and Nicky suddenly stopped and placed one final bet of $1 million with a new idea, challenging Livian to pick any random player using binoculars and promising that if Nicky could guess that player's jersey number correctly, he would win. Livian felt confused and suspicious, thinking Nicky might be cheating. But to clear his doubts, Nicky said he wouldn't guess this time and that Jazz would make the guess instead, causing Jazz to glare at him angrily, completely unsure of what he was doing. Jazz couldn't understand what was going on and tried to leave, but Livian's security stopped her, leading to a brief confrontation before she calmed herself down. Nicky told her to simply look around the field and say any number that felt right to her, after which Livian used binoculars to select a player and then handed them to Jazz, who scanned the field in confusion, seeing jersey numbers everywhere and wondering how to guess. Suddenly, she spotted a familiar face and remembered Nicky's words about choosing a number that felt personal, realizing that their friend Farhad was on the field wearing jersey number 55 and that this was all part of Nicky's plan. So she confidently said 55, which turned out to be correct and left Livian stunned. Although Jazz briefly wondered how Nicky had known Livian would choose that number, it didn't matter anymore because they had won the bet, gaining a $1 million profit and recovering all the lost money. Carrying 2 heavy bags full of cash, they left the stadium, and in the car, Nicky explained that everything was planned, that they had been tracking Livian for a long time, knowing he was famous in high society for his gambling addiction. The number 55 had been planted everywhere in Livian's mind. It was written on the security guard's lapel pin, appeared on signboards on the way to the stadium, and wasn't just shown to him, but also repeatedly heard, because on the way to the match a song was played in his car that hinted at the number 55 again and again, with a sound resembling 55 repeated 124 times, constantly pulling his subconscious toward that number. He was also shown a photo of Farhad, creating a strong visual memory, so when Livian later looked through the binoculars, his mind naturally gravitated toward jersey number 55, and the moment Jazz saw Farhad, she instinctively said 55, making the plan succeed. Jazz had been told nothing beforehand, front so her reactions would stay natural and raise no suspicion. And hearing all this left her completely impressed with Nicky. The story then jumps back a few days earlier, when Nicky was lying on a bed in a room with a man pointing a gun at his head, while Jazz, whom he had met only days before, sat nearby. It was clear Nicky had been trapped, yet he showed no fear and bluntly said he had no money and could be shot if they wanted, causing the gunman to instantly realize Nicky was con artist, which was true. Nicky was a highly skilled scammer who carried out small but clean cons, and Jazz herself had unknowingly helped lure him there, revealing to Nicky her natural talent, after which he told her she had a gift and that if she sharpened this ability, she could live comfortably for life. Without wasting time, Jazz took out some money and said she wanted to learn from him, and Nicky also didn't see any reason to delay. As they were leaving, Nicky secretly stole Jazz's ring without her even realizing it, and before she could understand what had happened, her watch was gone too. And when she put the watch into her handbag, Nicky had already taken out her wallet. After pulling off all these tricks, Nicky explained that this line of work only needs sleight of hand, perfect timing, and a bit of style, then said goodbye. A few months later, Jazz tracked him down in New Orleans, where Nicky was building a new team, and even their meeting was actually a test to see if she was worthy of joining once Jazz agreed. Nicky sent her to a fair with one of the team members for her first practical assignment, where she walked around holding a map and asking people for directions while her partner quietly stole a tourist camera lens. Another teammate deliberately bumped into a man and Jazz smoothly picked his wallet. Jazz was now gaining confidence in her stealing style, while Nicky watched everything from the top of a building and told the team to leave her alone because it was time for her to fly on her own. Jazz began stealing expensive items one after another, and with every successful theft, Nicky's respect for her grew, after which he sent her on an even bigger assignment involving high-tech fraud, where special lenses were used to see other players' cards and beat them easily, and a system was also in place to steal credit cards by passing them to a teammate who copied the data with a device and secretly returned the card to the victim's pocket before the account was drained. They also ran another scam using fake ATM machines that automatically stored pins when people withdrew cash. One day, Jazz tried on a beautiful necklace, but Nicky firmly told her to take it off immediately, explaining that everything had to be sold and nothing could be personal. And for the first time, Jazz witnessed fraud on such a massive level. The next day, Jazz and Farhad were roaming in a rich neighborhood, acting out a plan, when Farhad suddenly pretended to faint. Jazz started screaming and acting desperately, creating a distraction that allowed the rest of the team to steal valuables from the wealthy people nearby. That night, they celebrated together, and Nicky praised everyone because they had made $1.2 million in just 1 week. The next day, the team was set to split up. All documents were destroyed, and everyone was assured that their share of the money would reach their bank account soon. Though the older members knew Nicky still had one final mission left, he was given $1.2 million in cash and warned in front of Jazz not to waste it on gambling. The following morning, Nicky took Jazz to the stadium's VIP lounge and put on a full show, demonstrating how millions of dollars could be made in just minutes. And by then, Jazz had started falling for him. But in reality, Nicky had only brought her into the group as part of his con. When everything was over, Nicky handed her just $80 in cash and said goodbye. And as Jazz looked at him with tears in her eyes, Jazz had truly fallen in love with him. And at the same time, she felt that $80 was nothing, especially when Nicky had just made $1 million. But in Nicky's world, there was no place for emotions, and Jazz had finally seen his true face. About 3 years later, we see a race car pulling into a service station, and soon Nicky appears there as well. That he meets Garia, the owner of a racing team, whose research team has developed a new algorithm. And while it was already strong, they wanted to improve it further to increase their chances of winning. So they hired Nicky. The plan was simple. Nicky would pretend to be their chief engineer, then stage a public fight between himself and Garia to lure rival teams into a trap, after which Nicky would sell a fake version of the system to the rivals, while Garia's team used the real one to secure victory. According to the deal, Nicky would receive €1 million for the job, plus all the money earned from selling the fake system. And he took the assignment lightly, thinking such a simple scam was easy for him, though Garia's butler clearly did not trust him at all. The butler didn't trust Nicky at all and openly threatened him, saying that if he messed anything up, he would put a bullet straight through his chest. That evening, Nicky put on a tuxedo and went to attend a party where the plan was to stage a fight in front of everyone. But everything fell apart the moment Jazz made a dramatic entrance in a red dress and hugging Garia, which completely shook Nicky. He hadn't seen Jazz in 3 years, and now she was with another man, the same man who had hired him. Jazz calmly approached Nicky and told him she was no longer a con artist. Hearing Hearing this made Nicky furious. While he was supposed to fake a fight, his anger toward Gurria was now real, leading to a heated public argument that the rival racing team loved. Security soon threw Nicky out of the party, but by then he already had the rival team's business card. The next morning, Nicky met the owner of the McLaren team and bluntly asked for €3 million to sell the system. And since the racing team owner had no shortage of money, they immediately tested it on the track, and the results were so impressive that the owner's face lit up as Nicky moved one step closer to pulling off the con. He assured them that the full software would be delivered within 48 hours. Meanwhile, Jazz met Farhad on the street, who had been sent by Nicky. Farhad explained that Nicky had to leave 3 years ago because they had no other choice, and he revealed that Nicky still loved Jazz. He gave her a box containing the necklace she had liked before. Whether it was real or fake didn't matter. Just seeing it melted Jazz's heart. She told herself she couldn't trust Nicky, but her eyes revealed she still had feelings for him. Soon the deal day arrived, and Nicky handed the software to the McLaren team owner, who gave him €3 million in return. But Nicky's nature didn't allow him to work without risk. He secretly sold copies of the software to all the racing teams, earning millions in euros from each handshake, and nobody realized all teams had the same system until the race began. That night, Nicky messaged Jazz, hoping she would meet him in time so they could escape together, but nobody came. Just as he was about to give up, Jazz arrived, though it wasn't time to flee yet, because at that moment the same tough man who had handed him the €3 million for the McLaren deal appeared in front of Nicky. Turns out he was Gurria's man. By now, Gurria knew the full truth. Nicky hadn't sold fake software. He had sold the real one. Gurria had no interest in the €1 million he received. His anger was directed at the loss of the €40 million invested in developing the program. Gurria could not understand how Nicky had stolen the real software. When Nicky remained silent, Gurria pressed Jazz's nose, making it hard for her to breathe. And seeing this, Nicky broke down and revealed everything. He had reignited Jazz's old feelings, slipped a special chip into the necklace she wore, and when Gurria opened the software, Nicky had stolen his password and data through the chip. Jazz was heartbroken and cried, while Gurria and his men laughed, enjoying the story but not believing Nicky. Gurria insisted Jazz was never Nicky's girlfriend and was only in it for money, and Jazz admitted she only wanted to steal his expensive watch collection. Nicky was shocked that Jazz had pretended to love Gurria to get back at him. Now both were caught. Gurria quickly asked Butcher how Nicky had stolen the software, and as Nicky began to speak, Butcher shot him straight in the chest. Gurria's face turned pale in panic, realizing the money could still be recovered, but if he had gotten caught in the murder chaos, his life would have been over. He immediately got Butcher out and escaped the warehouse. Jazz was crying intensely, but Butcher reassured her that there was nothing to fear. He was actually Nicky's man, and truthfully, his real father. He had deliberately shot Nicky on the side of his chest, then sealed the wound with tape, drew out blood with a syringe, and stabilized the air pressure in his chest. Suddenly, Nicky opened his eyes again. He was still alive. The act was a bit insane, but it worked. With piles of money behind them, the three of them left. Nicky, an orphan, had been raised by this butler, who had taught him all the skills for stealing and cons, with the rule to never become emotional. But now, Nicky had truly fallen in love with Jazz. The butler left them at the side of a road, taking all the money with him, leaving Nicky empty-handed. On the way to the hospital, Nicky saw Jazz holding a watch worth €200,000 from Gurria, and they shared a look and smiled. With their skills and cleverness, they would never go hungry anywhere in the world. If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.